Hello YouTube, this is another Season 6 Patch 6.1 guide by eGaming Television, and in this episode we are bringing you the mid lane assassin, Zed. Now this is a brand new patch and nothing really got changed on Zed. There was a few things that got changed in the ferocity tree, but it does not really impact Zed's play. Thunderlord's Decree should still be easily the best mastery for Zed. One minor nerf, I guess, to Zed and a lot of other champions would be the precision thing in the Cunning tree, which was gain 5 plus 0.5 per level armor pen, which is now gain 3 plus 0.3 per level armor pen. They, however, made the LDR 45% armor pen instead of 40% armor pen, so you're going to make it up with this item anyways. So with the little patch changes out of the way, we're going to look at what Zed is exactly in the game of League of Legends. So he is an attack damage based assassin who has gained a lot of popularity due to popular mid lane streamers using him very often. He's a very rewarding champion who has devastating combos. He's able to tower dive and jump out after killing somebody. He's one of the very few champions that can actually do this over and over if you know how to properly use your shadows. I'd just like to say that we do have a brand new website out, which is just www.egamingtv.com, so please go there. We list all of our guides, so they're now much easier to find. In this Zed guide, we're going to be covering his pros and cons, his masteries, runes, summoners, his ability leveling order, and his item build as well. Now that we've got that sweet little intro to the way, we're going to talk about Zed's pros and cons, the first one being that he is an energy user. Not having to conserve your mana for certain combos is a very nice thing. And on top of this, of course, you don't have to really rely on the blue buff. Because you don't really need blue buff, your jungler's then able to pick something which is rather mana hungry and they can just keep the blue buff the whole game. This also means you're not going to have to really leave the mid lane and lose experience. I mean, you don't lose much experience, especially if you guys time it right. However, there is no chance for this happening. If you'd like the cooldown reduction from the blue buff, of course you can still go get it if your jungler doesn't really want the blue himself. Zed's next pro is he's a great farming champion. Now he can get pretty bullied early on in the game when he doesn't really have his skills, however when he's got his Q and his W, he's able to dish out a bunch of damage himself, even though he is a melee champion. Using his shadows, he's able to clear the minion waves really fast using all of his skills as well, which makes him the great farming champion he is. You're even able to pop in and out of the Wraiths camp, take that for extra money as well. Zed's next pro is that he's got huge burst. Because of his ultimate, he's definitely one of the burstiest champions in the whole game. What's really cool about him is the burst isn't even all at once. He can ultimate a target, do a bunch of damage, pop out, and later it will proc, doing the rest of the burst. Zed is also one of the best split pushers in the game. The reason he is such a great split pusher is, first of all, he can 1v1 most of the champions in the game. And if he's not able to do this, he's easily able to use his shadow to just hop over a wall anyways. A Zed that split pushes all game, gaining more and more farm so he's able to burst your squishy targets is one of the most frustrating things to deal with in the game. And on top of all of this, Zed is also a very fun and rewarding champion. I'm sure most people that play League of Legends would agree that a squishy assassin that's able to go in, burst a target, and just hop out is one of the more fun things to play in the game. By learning how to play this champion properly, you get rewarded big time. Being able to manage where your shadows are a big part of this. Even though he's a really squishy champion, considering the build we do go for, if he's able to dodge all of these using his shadows jumping around, then it doesn't really matter anyways. Zed's first con, which is rather annoying, is that his ultimate is countered by a QSS. Most AD carries that have a clue what the hell they're doing are going to buy a QSS if they see a Zed on the enemy team so they don't get blown up over and over again. This can be especially annoying if there's not really a second really squishy target on the enemy team that you can blow up instead. You know, perhaps there's a Leona support with a Rek'Sai jungle, a mid Malphite, and some sort of tanky top laner. In this case, it still might even be the best option to ultimate the AD carry, so he has to use QSS early on so your team can get off some spells as well. Now, even though your ultimate will get negated, you're still obviously going to jump to the target and be able to do a ton of damage anyways. So this isn't the end-all be-all to Zed or anything. His next con is that his Q is rather dodgeable. The flight speed isn't that crazy awesome, so the enemy champion usually has enough time to react to it. Of course, if you're really fast with using your skills and you drop your shadow and get your Q off right away, it's usually going to hit them, assuming it's close enough, but your second one might miss. Once you do play Zed fairly often in the mid lane, you're going to be able to predict where enemies are going to go and whatnot, so this might be not that big of a con for you in the end anyways. Zed's last con is that he's hard to play and even harder to master. I would say he's an extremely skill-based champion in this game compared to other ones. When you're in a very fast, hectic fight, it's very easy to forget where exactly your shadows are, so when you're using them to jump back, you may get lost in the fight. Now this will take a lot of time to learn, however when you do, it's going to really pay off. Zed is a champion that can easily carry games if you know how to play him properly. With that covered, we're going to move right into his Masteries, which are basically the same as they were in 5.24. Since he's not really crit or auto attack based, it's not worth getting any of the changed ferocity skills. So we start in Cunning by first getting Savagery, which is single attacks and spells deal 5 bonus damage to monster and minions, so last hitting is a bit easier. We then get Assassin, which is deal 1.5% increased damage when no allied champions are nearby, and of course we get this because we're an Assassin. We then move into Merciless, so we deal 5% increased damage to champions below 40% health. Now if you're ultimating a rather squishy target, usually you can get them to the 40% health threshold, so when your ultimate procs it does 5% more damage than it would have if you obviously did not get them that low. We then get Dangerous Game, so your champion kills and assists restore 5% of your missing health so you can live through team fights a bit easier. We then get Precision, which is gain 3 plus 0.3 per level Armor Pen and Magic Pen. Like I said before, this was a small nerf. It was gain 5 plus 0.5 per level Armor Pen, and obviously like I just said, it's now 3 plus 0.3 per level. We then move into the skill everybody knows, Thunderlord's Decree, which is your third attack or spell on an enemy champion calls down a lightning strike, dealing magic damage in the area. And we take this skill still because it makes Zed a bit burstier than he would have obviously without it. We then move into Resolve, getting Recovery, so you get 2 health regen every 5 seconds, and we follow this up with Explorer, so you get plus 15 movement speed, and Brush and River, so you can roam a little bit faster. We then take Veteran Scars, which is plus 45 health, so you're a bit tankier in the mid lane. And for our last mastery, we get Insight, which reduces the cooldown of your summoner spells by 15%, because using Ignite and Flash more often is frigging awesome. For our first rune, we take Greater Mark of Armor Penetration, and this is even better now in this patch in my opinion, because we did lose a bit of the armor penetration, so gaining this in our runes is really nice. We then take 9 Greater Glyphs of Scaling Magic Resist and 9 Greater Seals of Scaling Health, so we're as tanky in the mid lane as possible. And the nice thing with these, we get tankier and tankier as the game goes on. We then take 3 Greater Quintessences of Attack Damage, so obviously we can last hit easier and do more burst damage. For our Summoners, we of course take Flash and Ignite. Flash is used for chasing, escaping, and repositioning. It can be helpful for getting to the backline or to escape after deleting a target as well. Using your flash and then using your ultimate right after can close a massive gap. You can use this combo if you need to completely catch off a squishy target. We take Ignite because it can help secure kills that would have otherwise walked away with slivers of health. Since it's simply extra damage, it will enhance your dueling and kill potential. It's also a counter to champions who abuse healing. Now we're going to cover each of Zed's abilities, starting with his passive, which is called Contempt of the Weak. Zed's basic attacks against targets below 50% of their maximum health deal 6, 8, or 10% of their maximum health as bonus magic damage. This effect can only occur on the same target once every few seconds, and the on-target cooldown is 10. Now this passive is great for 2 different reasons. The first one of course being that it adds a little bit of extra damage if you do auto-attack a target below 50% of their health when you're in a combo. The extra burst of magic damage can be what finishes off your target. The second good thing about this, of course, is that if you are against a really tanky champion that has a lot of health, like say a Mundo for example, this will do a lot of damage. This means you can actually have a hope in hell killing a Mundo if it doesn't get banned in your game. So now we're going to jump into his Q, which is your bread and butter ability, and it's called Razor Shuriken. Zed throws his spinning blades forward, dealing physical damage to the first enemy they pass through and 60% damage to enemies thereafter. Now this has a living shadow part to the ability, which just means if you have a shadow, it does whatever is listed. So on that note, active shadows also throw a shuriken in the direction of the target point. Additional shurikens striking the enemy deal 50% damage and restore energy. So the physical damage is between 75 and 235 plus 100% bonus AD, and the additional damage is 37.5 to 117.5 plus 50% bonus AD. The range of the ability is 900, and the cost goes from 75 to 55 energy, and the cooldown is always 6 seconds without cooldown reduction. Now the first reason we max this first is because of the physical damage. It actually does 100% bonus AD, which is huge. There's not a lot of abilities that actually do that much bonus AD, so that's why obviously we level it. The second reason is the cost goes down significantly as we level it. It starts at 75 and it goes down to only 55 energy. Your other damaging ability, which is your E, has less base physical damage and less bonus AD, and the cost doesn't even go down as you level it, so the Q is much better to level. Now we look at Zed's W, which is called Living Shadow, and for the passive part, Zed's bonus attack damage is increased. For his Living Shadow portion, Zed's shadows mimic his basic abilities. If a mimicked ability strikes a target affected by its primary effect, Zed restores energy. And for the active, Zed's shadow dashes forward, remaining in place for 4 seconds. Reactivating Living Shadow causes Zed to blink to its location, swapping places with it. The bonus AD increase is between 5 and 25% bonus AD, and the energy restored is between 20 and 40 energy. The range is 700, the speed is 1750, and the cost goes from 40 to 20 energy, and the cooldown also goes down, and it starts at 18 seconds and goes to 14 seconds without CDR. Now with all that information on that ability out of the way, this is the ability that takes the most getting used to. As I said before, and I'm going to say again, being able to manage where your shadows are the biggest part of knowing how to play Zed properly. If you're making a play under a tower, you need to know if your shadow is far enough so you won't take tower damage. Zed is able to go in with his ultimate, get a bunch of damage off, hop back out, have his ultimate proc, and take no damage in the process. Obviously, this is only if you do your combo fast enough and your shadow is far enough out of range of the tower. Obviously, knowing how to do plays like this is going to make snowballing Zed much easier. You're going to also want to know when you are going to go and swap places with your shadow. If you're going to jump in, are you just going to get CC'd and die? Obviously, in this case, you're not going to do that. You can still, however, shoot abilities out of your shadow so you can get a bunch of damage and be out of range. Next is Zed's E, which is called Shadow Slash. Zed spins his blade, dealing physical damage to nearby enemies and reducing Living Shadow's cooldown by 2 seconds for every champion hit. For the Living Shadow portion, the active shadow also slashes, dealing physical damage to nearby enemies and slowing them for 1.5 seconds. Mimic slashes that hit targets affected by the primary slash, enhance the slow by 50%, and restore energy, but deal no additional damage. The physical damage is between 60 and 180, plus 80% bonus AD, and the slow is between 20 and 40%. The range is 290, the cost is 50 energy, and the cooldown is always 4 seconds. Now this has a decent AD ratio, and having a slow in your kit is nice, however it's not quite as good as your Q, so you do max this second. When you're harassing somebody in lane, you can drop your shadow under them, then E, so the shadow does slow them, and then your Q is much easier to land as they can't move out fast enough usually. Next is Zed's last ability, which of course is his ultimate, and it is called Death Mark. Zed becomes untargetable for 0.75 seconds and dashes behind the target enemy champion. Upon arrival, he marks them for death, goes for 3 seconds, and spawns a shadow at the cast location that lasts 6 seconds. After half a second, Deathmark can be reactivated to make Zed swap places with this shadow. At the end of its duration, Deathmark triggers, dealing physical damage plus a percentage of all physical and magic damage Zed had dealt to the target while they were marked. The physical damage is 100% AD plus between 30 and 50% of the damage dealt. The range is 625 and the cooldown goes from 120 to 100 to 80. Now this is an amazing ability for an assassin because you become untargetable for a small duration, and obviously it does a ton of damage. The best part about it is you don't actually have to stand there doing damage until your target completely dies. You can do a bunch of damage, hop out, and have them die later on. This is especially good on Assassin because you don't really want to get hit in return since you die very fast yourself. Usually you're going to be death marking a really squishy target that does a lot of damage. However, if you have a QSS, if there's another squishy target, you may want to choose that one instead. Using your death mark on a target that does have a QSS isn't necessarily a bad thing. If you had something like a Lux or a Morgana on your team, that means they wouldn't be able to use it to get rid of the root, and they would be able to die that way. With every ability covered, we're going to look at his ability leveling order, which starts with death mark. You take this whenever you can, meaning 6, 11, and 16. Your next in priority is your Razor Shuriken, which is your Q. You take it at level 1, and it is main priority, so you take it at 1, 4, 5, 7, and 9. Next in priority is your Shadow Slash. You take it at level 3, and it is your second in leveling priority, so you take it at 3, 8, 10, 12, and 13. Finally, we arrive at your Living Shadow, which is your W. You take it at level 2, and it is last in priority, so you take it at 2, 14, 15, 17, and 18. By taking this order, we were able to get as much burst and poke as possible in the lane. The last part of the Zed guide is his item build, which starts with a longsword and 3 health potions. The first item we rush is a Ghost Blade because it has a lot of armor penetration, attack damage, cooldown reduction, and a great speed increase from the activate, which makes it great on an assassin champion. We then get a Blade of the Ruined King because it has great sustain with great dueling stats and active. We then get Merc Treads because CC really sucks to sit in and it can really kill Zed. We then get an LDR for the 45% armor pen, which has a 5% increase in this patch and it helps with killing tanks. We then go into a Maw, so we get some more attack damage, some magic resist, and the great shield we get from the passive as well. We then finish this off with a Guardian Angel because coming back to life is pretty cool. Some alternatives would be an Infinity Edge if we wanted some damage and crit, a Death's Dance, which is now stronger in this patch, it has great stats as well, or a Bloodthirster because damage as well, and it has a shield when you get above the amount of health. So that pretty much covers it for this Zed guide. I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe if you guys did enjoy the video. I will be having many more videos coming out in the near future for patch 6.1, so stay tuned for those. Please also visit our website, which is egamingtv.com, so you can view all of our guides. Not all of the champion guides are up at this point in time, however they are being added very quickly, so you will be able to see those very soon. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next guide.